Every day, ordinary people make extraordinary choices as they negotiate unpredictable pathways to the peak of their expectations without ever taking the time to enjoy the view. Join me, Tish Tindall, at this panoramic viewpoint of astonishing personal and professional progress as we find out why my next guest is living the fabulous life. Nadia Jordan, filmmaker extraordinaire. How are you this evening, darling? Are you in Los Angeles?
I am in Los Angeles, and it's actually this afternoon for me. It's 12:30.
It's 12:30. Well, it's after 8 here. It must be 8:30 over here in Scotland. I'm in the north of Scotland, so things are quite dark here. You seem to be very bright over there. Is it sunny?
It is sunny, but for here it's kind of cold. It's in the 50s or something. I'm trying to think what that conversion is, like maybe 12-ish in centigrade. So sunny, but chilly for over here. Not for there, I know, but for here it's cold.
And that's not an American accent. That's definitely from somewhere else. Where are you from?
I'm from London originally. And yeah, I haven't lost it at all. I make a point of keeping my British accent.
That's yes, I can understand why. But you started off in the music business in London, is that right?
Yeah, my first job really was working for Polygram Records. I started as a marketing secretary and then moved into production as a production manager and was working on fast selling TV advertised compilation albums. And basically anything that was TV advertised. We worked on all the big, like Bon Jovi, Bryan Adams, all the Polygram music group, which then became Universal. I worked there for a few years before moving to a dance label and then on to another music management. So I did a lot of touring and worked really in all areas of music before progressing.
And what then brought you to Los Angeles?
So after I left the music industry, I went to work in television production, and I worked for companies in the UK such as Carlton and Endemol, some of the big production companies, and mainly in the music area still. And I didn't really like television as much. It wasn't really for me. So I then decided to train as an actor, which is something I'd done when I was younger, but because I'd got into working in music, I'd never really pursued it. So I started my acting training in London, then moved to New York and completed a 2-year Meisner program. So I was really there in New York for about 3 years before moving to LA, mainly because I'd always wanted to be in LA. I'd come here a lot, when I was younger. New York was kind of a stop on the way, but LA was really where I wanted to be, mainly because the scenery and the nature and the sun is so great, but also for TV and film, it's where the industry really is.
And how did you find that, not only the moving from one country to another, but from one part of the industry to another? Was that something did it go really smoothly, or, did it have its stressful moments?
For me, I guess I've always been in the entertainment industry. I'd kind of dabbled in bits of TV and film, being in music, and the same with television. It was all the same, the same industry. It was just different areas, like you say. So it wasn't that it was, a big, huge jump. It was slowly transitioning, into different areas or branching out into different areas of it. I mean, it's difficult, moving to LA. A lot of people arrive and don't really realize how long it takes to, get firmly planted here and work out the industry and what you need to do, and, just how hard it is actually. Everyone thinks, oh, you've got such a glamorous life, they look at pictures or they hear stuff and think, oh, you're working in entertainment in LA, it must be so glamorous. But it's actually really hard, to actually get anywhere here. It's a lot of hard work, and I think a lot of people arrive and aren't prepared for that. So it is stressful, especially at the beginning when you don't realize how hard it is. But it's a journey, you just have to keep working and keep making inroads and just keep going.
And where do you get your stamina from? Is it something, have you always been this determined?
I think I've always been quite driven. Yeah, I think it's almost like a survival instinct. I'm like, I have to work, I have to keep going, I have to do this. Because just, a few areas of my life or a few times that I think if I didn't have that, I probably would have given up and not achieved some of the things I have achieved, because, you know, they weren't easy and it's a lot of hard work. But I think I've just always had a drive, you know, a drive to do something, to have a career, to, you know, try and be successful in an area that I enjoyed, basically.
And do you think that that would be that way for you in any job that you would have, or is it particularly in the creative industries?
Yeah, you know, I can't say it would be, you know, before, along the way, I had a couple of jobs that didn't last very long in different areas. So no, I don't think it would. For me, it has to be something creative, you know, but not necessarily artistic. It's not like I would want to go and be a painter and draw. It has to be something that I can drive forward, which is why, you know, acting's kind of hard, because acting, you're kind of at the beck and call of other people waiting, you know, you're waiting for your chance. Whereas, you know, producing, directing, writing, which is, you know, also what I'm involved in, you're more driving your own, you know, you're in charge of your own destiny, so to speak. It's a little bit easier. But I think if I wasn't doing something creative and that I could be so proactive on it, I wouldn't be as driven.
And when you're working with really high profile people, do you find that the management side of things helps you sort of move things along in a way you maybe couldn't do if you weren't in charge?
I definitely, you know, I do like being in charge, I have to say, because when you're acting, you don't get to make, you know, you're at the beck and call of the director. And it was the same when I was in the television industry. I always, you know, I wasn't at the top of the tree, so to speak. So I always had all these ideas and wanted to say, oh no, but why don't you do it like this? And, you know, there's kind of, if you're not at the top in the television, well, when I was working in it, you weren't necessarily taken seriously. And I felt like I had so many ideas, and listen to my ideas. And it's the same with acting. You want to kind of say, but how about if they do it like this? And obviously a director wants you to do it their way. So I do like that, you know, being able to do it my way, which I think is why, you know, I'm also directing because that's, you know,
Yeah.
the director's vision, obviously. But I think, you know, with regards to dealing with, you know, high profile people, I think I've been in the industry so long. I mean, going back to when I was still at school, I used to, my mum worked for LBC Radio. So I used to sit on reception at weekends, and they had all kinds of guests in. So I got used to kind of being around high profile people from, you know, a very young age. And then obviously I was in the music industry and was touring with a lot of big names, and then working in television. So especially living in LA, it's kind of, you kind of get used to it. You go to a lot of Q&As. There's a lot of A-listers and things there. So there's not very many people. I'm sure there's one or two that I've got a little bit starstruck around, but I'm trying to think who they were. I saw Tom Cruise once in a restaurant bathroom line, and he was very nice. And I was with a friend. We were both a little bit starstruck. But I think, you know, if I was actually working with him, it would be completely different, because you've got like a different head on at that time. You know, it's all about what you're doing.
And so, you know, you are pretty high profile yourself. So, you know, does the experience that you've had, does it give you the opportunity maybe to listen more to people who are up and coming?
Well, first of all, thank you for saying I'm pretty high profile, but I'm not, not in LA. But yeah, you know, I just think, like, you know, I hear some directors talk that they say at the beginning of filming, like, if anyone has got any ideas, come forward, like, put your hand up, come and tell me, you know, because you just, like, everyone should have a chance to be seen and heard. And who knows who's going to have the next brilliant idea. Like, I'm working on a script at the minute, and it's really interesting because everyone has a different perspective, and you might not agree with everything that someone tells you, but quite often that one person can say something small that makes a big difference. So I always, when I'm working, listen to everything and want everyone's opinion, because you just never know what that might bring to the project.
And so what would you say to somebody who was maybe a little bit scared to approach somebody like you for advice, or even to pitch an idea? How would you make them feel more comfortable?
Well, I would say, like, and this is, I can only speak from experience, right? But I would just say, just go for it, because you never know. Like, when I was trying to get my last film made, and at the time it was just me, I didn't have any names attached. I was acting in it, I was producing it, I'd co-written it. I was going into these big meetings with, you know, big Hollywood financiers, and pitching it, just little me sitting there trying to answer all these questions. But he stayed in touch, and all right, he didn't invest in that film, but he stayed in touch with the future. And I've since made that film and sent him the trailer. And I've, you start to establish relationships. But I found it's quite easy, but it's quite, it's not too hard to get meetings with people, because especially in this industry, a lot of people don't want to miss the next big thing. So I think you just have to be persistent and just take a risk without actually being annoying.
So you really do appear to be a very confident, dynamic, and I'm going to say it again, high profile person who is working in an industry that they feel really comfortable in. Is that the truth, Nadia? Are you that comfortable? Are you that confident?
No, I'm not at all. I think and people have always said this to me, like there's something, and I think it's to do with going back to what makes you feel safe. If you start looking at it from a psychological angle, it's like you put on this armor, right? It's like a defense mechanism. And I think I probably learned to put that on as a very young child. So I'll walk into a room and look like I'm unflappable and I'm cool, but really sometimes it's a nervous thing, and it's just how I'm coming across, and I'm not actually like that at all. But when it comes to work, I think the more time you spend in the industry and the more experience you get more comfortable. And I think that only comes with doing the work and having the experience and time. But no, for sure, it's some things, right? If I have a really strong idea about something, then I'll stick to my guns, and I'm confident because I'm confident in that it's the right thing. But with regards to, walking into a set and people and like, oh, she's the producer, you know what I mean? I'm not half as confident as I might appear. But the thing is, right, you have to appear it. You have to, like, especially if you want to work on a set and you're doing that kind of job, because if you don't appear confident, then especially from a directing perspective, like if actors don't see a confidence in a director, then they're not gonna, everyone loses everyone loses it and starts to worry, is their performance okay? Is this okay? Is the outcome going to be okay? What's the film going to be about? So sometimes you just have to kind of, flag it, even if you don't feel it.
And carrying that kind of responsibility is a huge thing, being the producer, being the director, and really having other people's lives at times in your hands. Does that cause you sleepless nights, Nadia? Is that something that, it sits on your shoulders, with a heavy presence?
Yeah, I mean, I have many sleepless nights. It's the kind of, it's not a 9 to 5 job, right? So I'm writing at the minute, or I've got a couple of things on the go. I'm creating a TV series, and all I do is I wake up at like 4 a.m. in the morning with lines going around in my head. Oh, that doesn't make sense, and we need to change that. We do that. So that's one form of sleepless night. The other one is from a producing angle, that you're juggling a lot of things. You're trying to get the cast, and then you're trying to get the financing, and there's a big responsibility with all of that, because you don't want to let people down that you've cast in the film. You want to kind of keep going and let them know that this film is going to happen. There's always that kind of nervousness when you're not a big studio and you're making an indie film. And then there's also the financing part of it. You want to make a good film, you want to make a successful film, and you want to be able to pay your investors back. So that is a huge responsibility.
What seems to be at the core of what you do is a huge passion for every project that you're embarking on. And that kind of enthusiasm has to come from an inner belief. Do you think you have some sort of belief that things are going to work out okay?
I would like my head will say, no, it's all going to go, I don't know. But I think something inside me drives me, and I feel like I almost don't have a choice. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm meant to do. I just have to keep going. And, I guess deep down inside, I have a belief that things are going to work out, or I wouldn't keep trying, because, like I say, it's hard. Like, things just don't fall into your lap. Like, just little things. You don't realize that you might be waiting 8 months for this. And, you have to be working on a few other things, and you have to kind of be patient, and you have to have some kind of belief, because if not, you'd go crazy. And and you wouldn't be able to continue.
So we have a performing arts college here in Scotland, and when I told some of the students that I was going to be talking to Nadia, they wanted to know how you managed to spin all those plates, because that's a skill in itself. So how do you do it?
Well, I mean, I have to be honest, right now it's easier because of the whole lockdown and quarantine thing. It's given me time to do a lot of writing that I wouldn't necessarily normally have the time to do. But, I'm not great at taking time off work. Like, my passion is my work, and it's also kind of my hobby. It's what I enjoy doing. So I'm quite someone who can jump from project to project and adapt to do producing. Then I'll do some writing, then I'll go and do some. But if you're not that type of person, then I guess it's just prioritizing time. Like, today I'm going to do this, tomorrow I'm going to do that, and just taking the time to focus on each one. But it's I wouldn't say so much it's spinning plates. It's just, you just have to kind of keep going and juggle and prioritize what needs doing when, and work on things as they come.
And the ability to respond to whatever is the priority, I presume.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's always, you have to be able to adapt, right? Like this morning I was going to work on something, and then I realized that a script suddenly had to have all these changes, and so that kind of came first because it was something I had to get out. Yeah, I mean, it's time management is really important, and being able to prioritize. And some people are good at that, and some people can only focus on one thing which is why I think it's good. I have a very organized schedule. So if you're looking at my schedule, every day it has everything I'm going to do, and I kind of prioritize what needs to be done so I don't get overwhelmed and drop things.
And that's the thing about you, Nadia, is that you don't seem to drop things. You do seem to be very much in charge of this, industry that you have created. And I wondered if there was a time, that you ever thought you wouldn't get this far. Did you ever think that?
Yeah, it's a fear, right? It's always a fear, like a nagging fear when things don't go your way. Like, there were so many problems making my last film. I had deadlines, and if I didn't get the money to make it by a deadline, I had to give the money back. That was a huge, huge stress. And you're always kind of having to, stop and recalibrate and work around it. And what can I do and do this? It's, a lot of producing, especially, is problem solving. Like, what can I do? Like, okay, I can't do that. Giving up is not an option. So what can I, how can we meet in the middle? How can I get around this? But yeah, I mean, like I say, lots of sleepless nights about, is this actually going to work out? But it did, and it's all a huge learning experience. And I'd love it if it could just all be easier and just all smooth, flow smoothly and not happen like that. But I think in this industry, almost everyone you talk to is going to have similar stories to me. It's difficult, it's hard, you get let down, things change, you have to completely rethink, what way forward. And it's just the way of the industry, and you have to kind of try and not take it personally, which is also very hard. It's very easy to say, oh, it's me, it's all terrible, it's all going to go wrong, I should give up.
I think the challenges.
Yeah, lots of challenges.
I think the challenges for you, though, could be where the drive comes from. It does, as I say, through researching you and chatting to you, you have this enormous kind of capacity to deal with situations and turn them around. And that is uniquely inspiring. And I know it's going to be inspiring for everybody who meets you. If you had the opportunity just to stop in your busy schedule and look back on everything that you've achieved, what would be fabulous, darling? What would be the thing that stands out there as fabulous?
I guess it really has to be, making my film, because it was such a struggle. It was something, I'd never written a feature, I'd never produced a feature, I'd never played the lead acting role in a feature. I partially directed it as well. And to actually get the kind of level of actors, there was a reality check one day. I was stressed because we were having to reshoot something, and I couldn't get the printer to print a permit or something, a filming permit. So I was in this huge stress, and there's me driving down Sunset Boulevard. And it was one of those reality check moments. Hang on, Nadia. You're in Los Angeles, you're driving down Sunset, you're going to film something that you're playing the lead in, that you raised the money for, that you wrote. It might not be the perfect film that you're going to, remember and want everyone to remember as your work of art forever, but you achieved it and pulled it off after so many struggles and problems. Even like I can't begin to tell you all the things that went wrong with it. So just the fact that it actually got done, it got made, it got distributed, people watch it. Like I say, I can't say it's like, going to be my biggest work of art, but the fact that it got done and it finished and that I was able to do that, I think that is, for me, that feels like an achievement.
And you did that, and that's what I find incredibly inspiring. And, to go from somebody that was sitting on reception when you were a youngster in the radio station to now, making feature films and doing them in the way that you do, it is, like I said before, it's uniquely inspiring. And I really do think, Nadia, that you are living the fabulous life. And I just hope that you stop sometimes and take the time to appreciate how fabulous you are. And I would just like to say I've looked forward to this interview for a very long time now. And Nadia Jordan, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk to me. And I hope we can talk again. And I hope that we talk about your next huge success. So from me in Lossiemouth, to you in Los Angeles, Nadia Jordan, thank you very much.
Thank you. It was great chatting with you. Thank you.
Katy Lipson, how wonderful to see you. I cannot believe that I've finally got to speak to you. Are you in London?
I am. I'm in central London in my home office. Yeah.
Looking fabulous with, I can see, a cello and a piano. Do you play them both?
I do. I started with the piano when I was like 7 and then wanted to be in an orchestra at school and sort of begged my parents if I could learn the cello. I just loved the sound of it. But actually, when I first moved to London, I had a little band and I played the cello in this band. We wrote songs and we kind of played together. And I joined a local orchestra, but it's been difficult to kind of keep up now, so busy with the producing. But the piano is something that really has been kind of a reason why my career, I think, took off, because having the piano skills meant that I could sort of accompany and sort of teach music and singing and MD, and having the piano skill really helped me, as I propped up the business at the beginning, trying to earn extra money.
Yeah.
It really was quite important to me, and pretty much is why I focus on musical theatre, my love of classical music and playing and all of that creativity.
And this is the thing about you do everything, and as all my guests seem to be doing, they're just doing everything. And you have a great love for melody and for lyric and for orchestrations and for production and putting the whole thing together. And I've been watching many interviews, I've seen your BBC interviews, and where do you get this resilience from, Katy? Because you really are taking on the big guns, yeah?
I think it boils down to passion. I mean, you have to love what you do. And every day, even in lockdown, I sit here having new conversations with new writers, new venues, new investors, and just continue to power through and to find new connections, because it's not just what you do, it's who you know, and it's putting all those dots together. If you make something, how do you distribute something? How do you get in a theatre if you haven't reached out to them? So you're constantly building a portfolio of reputation, and I think that resilience just comes down to loving what I do and wanting to do it again and again and again. And you probably can tell I do a lot of shows all at once as well. Probably as I progress further into my career, I might do less because I'll be doing larger scale. But as I've been building really from the ground up, from fringe theatre, 100 seats, well, smaller, I started in sort of 50-seat theatres to sort of 2,000-seat theatres and things like the Addams Family and Hair. I've had to learn, I've had to learn it all on the go. And I had to do a lot of shows to make ends meet, really.
Yeah. And tell me, so what came first? Was it the want or the need to produce, or was it the chance to produce?
So I didn't know what a producer was. I came to London at 18 to study at university, and I was studying genetics of all things, which I didn't complete. But I did meet a friend in the Musical Theatre Society. We were doing Cabaret the Musical, and he and I became best friends, and he ended up coming to my flat because I had a piano, and we ended up writing a small little opera together, which he kind of led on and I played the piano for. I wrote a few songs as well, but my calling wasn't really to be a composer. But he said when we were about 18, oh, we finished this opera now, why don't we put it on the stage? So we put that opera on the stage, and we decided to form a little company together to support that work and then other shows that we liked. And, you know, this was at the age of 18, and right through to 23, I also completed a degree finally in classical music and did a year at a drama school, a sort of like foundation. Well, it's kind of a year course, but a lot of people did it as an MA, but I was still only 19. And I left there at 23, having produced kind of a few shows with my friend, got an agent as an actor, started working as a musical director and as a vocal coach, but really started to think, you know, when I got to about 25, what out of all those things was the thing that I really connected with and really liked doing the most. And it was producing. The more I did it, the more I liked it. And I realized that I needed to sort of, you know, spread my wings and maybe go solo and set a company up that kind of focused on all genres and not just new musicals, but also revivals. And I had one moment of sort of like a light bulb moment where I went to a lecture in producing with West End producers. And that was like a calling. It was like, this is what I meant to do. You know, the £1 million budgets didn't scare me. The idea of the West End was attractive, but not sort of, that's my goal. But the idea of large scale and making art a business from a producerial perspective, and also working on a musical as an MD that I thought I could sort of take under my wing and redo with my own creatives. Those two moments were the catalyst to go, okay, let's form ARIA, let's go solo and take this more serious and stop auditioning as an MD or as an actor. And so really the only job I ever had was as a vocal coach until the business started to earn me a salary. So I would say I did fall into producing, but I think that, you know, I always say if it wasn't for my friend at uni, when would I have discovered this? I knew I wasn't an actor. I knew I didn't feel 100% comfortable as an actor. And although I love to play the piano and love to accompany, I thought unless I'm going to put the time in on the piano to become super, super good, you know, it's not for me. And you know, I'm a good musician, but I was never going to be the best MD in the world unless I committed fully to it, and I wasn't prepared to. So I found my calling card, and I just am very grateful I did.
And do you think that Katy the musician and Katy the actor understands the performers that she works with? Does the producer hat, you know, understand what's going on inside the heads of these performers?
Yes, and I actually, you know, that's why I really enjoy doing acting through song masterclasses and Q&As and helping actors understand what a producer does as well, and understanding how a performer can grow, how a performer can sort of be part of a company. And I think, you know, I don't like to use the word creative producer because I think it can convey a message that you're either a creative producer or a financial producer, but you're not, you're everything. But I come from it from a very creative position. Every title I've done has been, you know, a world premiere, a European premiere, or hasn't been seen for 50 years, or completely reimagined. We like to focus on, you know, the originality and the creativity of a project, and we always lead produce, which kind of means that we pick the show, we pick the director, we pick the casting director, we really shepherd the project. So I think that all comes down to me as the creative who liked to be on the stage, who liked to write a bit, who liked to play the piano. And, you know, I am very sympathetic to performers, and I really do try and put myself in everyone's shoes, not just because I experienced it, but just because I feel more connected with them in terms of like the grassroots of the organization. And I want actors to know that we are relatable as well, that we're not the big bad producer that you can't speak to, or, you know, it's just a business and turn up and do a job, because at the end of the day, it's not that simple. You know, it might be a business with shows running for 35 years, but they're still people, and there's people to consider, and you have to think about how that all works.
And when you're employing the production team, are you looking for like-minded people? Are you looking for people who understand the dream? And if so, how do you communicate that to them?
Yeah, so when I started off, I didn't know a lot of directors. So I reached out, I went to see work, I went to meet people for coffees. And even if I hadn't seen the work, if they spoke to me about a show in a way that I felt matched my vision and passion, I would know that we were a match. At the end of the day, you're a project manager and you're giving someone all the resources to make something wonderful. So you've got to trust that they're going to do it and not micromanage them. So, I like to find people that are passionate about the same material as I am, or they speak about art in a way that I think is brilliant. And over the years, I've worked with maybe 25 directors, and I've used a lot of new directors on my showcases in my festivals. But there's 3 directors that I've worked with, say, like 5 or more times, and I sort of have an instinct of what project they're right for, even though they're all brilliant in their own right. One I might give a comedy musical to, like The Toxic Avenger, and the other I might give Little Women to, because it's this story. And it's just about, you just get to know, you see so much over your career that you learn what people are good at, and you just want the best vision for your piece. So you're drawn to those creatives for those reasons. And I like to build the rest of the team with the director. So the designer, the lighting designer, the sound designer. I might pick the musical director because that's a particular role I love and understand. And orchestrations, I have quite a big opinion about that. But yes, it's a collaboration always.
And when is it not your place to have a big opinion about something? Is there ever a time when you feel, I should back off here?
It depends when it becomes difficult. I mean, a lot of actors say, who decides who's in the show? Is it you? Is it the director? Is it the casting director? And I said, hopefully we all agree, especially the director and producer, because if you're not agreeing with the vision of the casting from the beginning with your director, what troubles might you have later on? If Absolutely. I disagree, but I'm not totally not sold on the actor, but I'm not sure, but the director's really sure, I'll let them have it, because, I have to trust them. I have to trust them. And luckily, I've not been in a position where I've had to go, what if you don't, I'm not happy with this. I've always been quite lucky with directors and stuff. There's been some trouble, creative team members over the years, but it's been me and the director have both had to deal with that together. It's not been, we've always been a pair, a united front.
And how do you develop a resilience, a resilience and a stamina, and I suppose an element of self-belief, where does that come from?
Well, again, I think it still boils down to who you are as a person and the passion and seeing the bigger picture and understanding that this is not just now, this is a career, it's not a marathon. I mean, it is a marathon, it's not a sprint. You do it, and also that it's all part of the process. Today I'm a producer, even though I don't have a show on. Tour booking, deciding artwork, deciding ticket prices, doing casting, speaking to venues, speaking to new directors, doing an interview. It's all part of the job. It's not just the opening night, it's not just the checks, it's understanding that it's all part of the process. So I don't know, I found, I guess, what I'm really meant to do, and I feel that there are hard days, but I've never got to the point, even though I've had moments where I've gone, oh God, can I do this? Can I carry on? Yeah. It's never lasted more than 24 hours, luckily. Yeah. And there's been so many knockbacks, financial knockbacks, difficult productions, critical knockbacks. There's so many doors closed in front of you, but if you don't get up and carry on, then it's not for you. So you have to, I don't know, it's to do with your temperament and your personality and opportunity and being lucky. I think I'm blessed as well. I think I guess I was, I don't know, brought up in a way that I was able to pursue the things I loved and had support in that, and obviously I'm very grateful to that, and it's kind of probably shaped maybe how I deal with all the work I do. But there are times where you feel hard done by and not supported and why me, but then you have to think, well, how lucky I am. How lucky am I? Yeah. And how I can't sit feeling sorry for myself. There's so many other people that cannot shape that. And I said to the actors, producers still get knockbacks. We still have to persevere and get over so many hurdles. But at least we can get up and go, right, I'm going to make a show. I'm going to try. I'm going to choose, and I'm going to drive it. we do ultimately decide if a show is going to happen and where and when, which is a brilliant thing to have, but very lonely and very challenging at the same time. There's no sense of community as a producer. At the beginning, you really are on your own, and the buck stops with you, or starts with you, whatever the expression is.
Yeah.
So,
And yeah, and as you know, we have a performing arts college up here, and you know, one of the things that we do is we write original pieces to take to the Fringe in Edinburgh. And you've been lovely enough to take my emails on from time to time about that. How important do you think it is for students in training to have the opportunity to perform on the national stage, you know, no matter how small?
I think it's really important. I think you want to have experience. You want to remind everybody how blessed we are to do what we do, however hard it is. And actors do get that because they spend so many months potentially not doing what they love. So they have to love it, and they should understand how it feels to perform at different scales. What's really interesting is when you get a West End performer performing on the Fringe in a small theatre going, wow, this is actually much more challenging because I can see everybody and this close to everybody, but what an experience. So I think that's really interesting for performers to understand scale. What's it like performing with a microphone, without a microphone? What's it like in a 3,000 seater and a 300 seater? What's it like working with a small company where the producer's in the room every day, to a big long running show where you might see the producer once a year? A touring musical, I think touring is one of the hardest things you can do as an actor. You're away from home, you get home late at night. It just feels like everything's about your job, because where you don't have your friends around, your company are your friends. It's always an amazing experience too, to see all different parts of the world and all the country. So yeah, I think the biggest thing I say to actors, especially now, is, you know, research, read, learn about everybody else in the sector, read about theatres, read about revivals, understand the genre that you're in. And so you're already 10 steps ahead, because when a revival of Hello Dolly comes about, you'll know what it's about. You know, it's not just a craft, it's the business of it. And so learn and sieve it all up, you know, like sponge it all up, and sort of try and get a sense of who's who, because it's always going to be beneficial when you're in the room and you kind of know who you're meeting and what they've done before and how you could relate to them. You know, it is interesting, because a lot of times you get an energy from an actor when they come into audition, and you can tell who's done their research, who might be a nice person to work with, and that energy, it comes off the actor and it makes you want to work with them. And that's something you can never teach. And often agents go, well, can I have some feedback from my client? And it's, oh, they radiated confidence, or they radiated a lovely energy, or your client felt a bit shy today, or we couldn't get to know them. And it's something that is literally how you walk in the room and how you engage with the panel. So I think that's really important for actors, not just to practice their song and their singing and their dance routine, but to understand the audition process, but getting to know people in the business and understanding what their jobs are as well, so you're sensitive to their roles as well.
You know, and the thing about you, Katy, is that you're so passionate and you're so learned, and you know exactly what you want to do and why you want to do it that way, and never really taking any credit for giving so many people so many opportunities, you know. And I think if you were to look back on everything you've achieved, what would you see as fabulous? Is there one thing or one moment or a time when you thought, you know, this is really fabulous? And I mean that from the point of view of what you're doing for others, actually.
For the last couple of years, I've really started to receive a lot of love and a lot of warmth, and started to look at what I do from an outsider. Kind of started at the Hope Mill, you know, first of all, bringing that sort of quality of work to the north. And we needed a lot of love, all of us, because we certainly weren't making any like money from it. So your currency is often the response your audience give you, and the love sometimes the critics give you, like the local northern critics. And I just started to think, okay, this is how you build a following and a reputation. And then I started to look at my social media thinking, I've got quite a lot of followers. I didn't really ever think about that. And, you know, during this pandemic, I've done so many Q&As and talked to drama school students and done director producer chats for aspiring directors and producers with Jonathan O'Boyle, who I've worked with, and he did a few shows during the pandemic. And I don't know, like, I have thought about it, and I feel proud, and I feel like it's going to continue, and nothing will ever hopefully stop me doing.
Well, you should be proud, because you've achieved the most extraordinary things to date, and I know that you are going to continue to do that, Katy. You are a huge inspiration to all of us who are part of this industry, and you are, I think, also bridging the gap between education and industry. And I can't believe that you took the time to talk to me this evening. I want to thank you very much for that. And I also just want to say, Katy, without a doubt, you are living the fabulous life, and you're also creating it for others. So, Katy Lipson, I just want to thank you very, very much.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been lovely.